coming up, so I did want to talk about SummerSlam in general. It was known as the biggest party of the summer. The first ever SummerSlam was held on August 29th in 1988 at Madison Square
Oh
Garden
wow,
in
that's
New
my
York
birthday.
City, August
Yeah,
29th,
yeah.
1988.
86, but yeah,
Okay. So you were
Master of
there.
Puppets came out
You were
that year.
there. Yeah.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
So SummerSlam is, like I said, referred to as the biggest party of the summer. I don't know if they still call it that, but I think they're switching it to Hot WrestleMania. But yeah, it's considered one of WWE's big four pay-per-views, and I will argue because it's WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. But I think SummerSlam they're trying to position it as like the number two, like the WrestleMania, like the big event during the second half of the year. And I think it deserves it, and they are gonna apparently push it to 2 days. I don't know if it's next year, but they're gonna turn it into a 2 day event, which I think will be cool. But I want to take this moment to just ruminate. I don't know if you guys had time this week to think about SummerSlam because I was watching all these matches and I wanted to talk about like our favorite moments when we think of SummerSlam. You know, what do you guys think of? I can kind of like start and just kind of talk about it. I figured we could just kind of like whoever thinks of it, you know, just kind of we can chat about like the match or the moment like leading up to those matches, that match in SummerSlam. So the one that I wanted to bring up, and I already, well, I shared it on social media, was the Randy Orton versus Hulk Hogan match at SummerSlam. That was one of the ones that like kind of stuck out with me when I was thinking of SummerSlam. This is like 2006, so this was like right around. So this is the 2006 SummerSlam, and they had Randy Orton versus Hulk Hogan, and Hogan was kind of like still living off of that. Well, he was still around. Like he wasn't as often. I think he was being shown more of like a marquee at that point because he fought Shawn Michaels the SummerSlam before or the year before. And he was involved in those previous years with Edge, like you mentioned, and he had the Hollywood Hogan stuff. But yeah, that SummerSlam was the first one that I ever saw in like as an adult or as an adult as a cogent person who would remember pay-per-views. And this, I think we were in eighth grade. Um, and yeah, I think it was our first pay per view that we watched too, or maybe it was, yeah, it was the first one we watched since the Attitude Era, and we were watching like in 2000, like SmackDown, that kind of stuff. And that's what got us back into wrestling. So, yeah, I remember in that SummerSlam, you had Hogan. Basically, it was Randy Orton had his Legend Killer thing. You had Brooke Hogan in the mix for whatever reason. Hogan got RKO'd on that car. The match itself wasn't that great, and Hulk Hogan won, of course, which I don't think should have happened. But that SummerSlam sticks out in my mind, partially because of that match, and then the whole DX reunion happened that year, and they faced Shane McMahon and Vince in a tag team match, but it turned into like a gauntlet with like five other people. Well, the Spirit Squad
Cheers,
came
squad.
out.
Yeah.
William Regal, Fit Finley came out, and then they basically plowed through all of them, which is also a little problematic. But yeah, I just really liked that SummerSlam. I don't know, Chris, do you remember any of that pay per view in '06
It's definitely a blur. I do not remember that pay-per-view.
at all?
No.
What about what about for you in terms of Summer Slams that you remember or that stick out in the past, I guess, decade that you remember, like things that you feel like kind of stuck out for you in terms of like a memorable moment?
Honestly, for whatever reason, like SummerSlam just never was that pay-per-view that it was like memorable in my head. You know what I mean? It would always be like closer to like WrestleMania time, the Royal Rumbles, the WrestleManias. But SummerSlam, I mean, and if there was like a Edge John Cena match, like if that was a SummerSlam match, it was probably that would
Pretty
be
sure
probably
it
a
was.
memorable match.
Yeah, pretty sure it was, which was a good one. Was it not the TLC match? That
That was
might
I
have
think the
been.
first
given.
TLC was in.
The
Yeah.
first ever TLC was a SummerSlam match, but that was
Yeah.
a tag team.
Yeah, which was a really good match too. By the way, so you're saying you're not a fan of SummerSlams in general, or nothing sticks out?
At least for
Exactly.
me, like I really do need to go back and watch some SummerSlams because like I've obviously watched them, but I'm just like, yeah, I don't recall.
What about the match with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, like the forklift, like basically threw the
Oh yeah,
entire
I mean that shit
uh,
was crazy.
arena on it.
That was
What about that
yeah.
Lesnar squash match against Cena?
Yeah, that too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean that was a good one. That shit was crazy with all that blood.
I mean the CM Punk stuff at SummerSlam. He also had a number of good matches.
CM Punk and Brock Lesnar.
Summer of Punk.
CM Punk and Jeff Hardy,
Yeah.
the World Heavyweight Championship match. That was actually really good, and that was kind of like when he was starting that, straight edge, better than you, and then he started, kind of preying on his, drug habits and all that kind of stuff.
He's like, this is a legal drug that you get from a doctor. Or some shit.
This is
So that
Jeff
was really
Hardy
good.
gets,
And if you actually go back and see that match on Peacock, it was like a ladder match. But that was really good. And Jeff Hardy was going into it as the world heavyweight champion, if I'm not mistaken. And it was that year, those years basically where Jeff Hardy was like that, kind of like hovering around. Like I think they gave him the WWE championship at one point. He beat Triple H at Armageddon. And then obviously kind of
And
like what happened with RVD, he got suspended, and then they had this whole like wishy-washy relationship with Jeff Hardy after that. But like that was another big one, like with him with the face paint and all that kind of stuff when he came back that second time in like 07 or 08. That was really
Edge versus Undertaker in 08.
Oh yeah.
Hell in a Cell. That was pretty good.
That shit was the BAM. For sure. What about you guys? Any other like SummerSlam matches you can think of that kind of stuck out in your brain?
HBK's return match was SummerSlam against Triple H. That was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
custody for Dom.
Oh yeah.
That's true.
That was at SummerSlam.
That's
And
true.
it's happening again.
Wait,
I didn't watch it.
Was the Icon versus Icon Hogan and HBK match? That was SummerSlam as well.
That was
right?
also at SummerSlam, yeah.
Was that the one where he like oversold?
Overselling,
it,
yeah.
Pretty sure it was the same.
That was 05. I think that was the same SummerSlam as the Dominic custody match.
Lord.
Do you remember this match? Team WWE, John Cena, Bret Hart, Chris Jericho.
Oh yeah,
Daniel Bryan, Edge, John Morrison. Yeah, Nexus.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, but I just wanted other people to talk first.
Damn, I don't remember that shit. I mean,
it was also
honestly
like
remember.
14 years ago.
Yeah.
My favorite
you were saying
would be the one when it was 2001 when the Alliance was still a thing.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of those matches were like unification matches. Like I remember like X-Pac, Tajiri, RVD, Jeff Hardy, fucking Brothers of Destruction against like Chronic or something. They got like spot in the cage.
Was that like the cruiserweight, light heavyweight unification? Was that on SummerSlam?
Yep.
That was the year Booker T and Rock for WCW Championship.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That was when Kurt Angle was going through that whole like his first like really big face push, and he had like the milk truck and all that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wish I saw that.
Right?
Yeah, he'd already joined the Alliance.
It's funny, he was a heel, but like everyone still loved him.
I think that's where I read that the bodies hit the floor was like the alliances song for a little bit, and then 9/11 happened,
ECW.
and then they stopped using it for
I didn't know that.
obvious reasons. Because this SummerSlam was like right before 9/11, and then they switched it. But yeah, I didn't think about that. That's another good match. But yeah, you mentioned Hogan versus Shawn Michaels. So originally it was supposed to be, they agreed for it to be a best out of three. I don't know if they never talked about it like on TV, but I think that was like the backstage like conversations about, we're gonna make this like a best out of three. You win one, I win one, and then Hogan would win the last one, and they agreed to that. And then Shawn Michaels was basically also doing some of his best heel work that year, because that was also the same year when in the middle of that feud where he went to Montreal and he cut that promo on them. And they put the Bret Hart music on, and like that was a pop too. Like when they played the Bret Hart music in Montreal, and then nobody came out, and then he was just like, "What? Like what?"
Got
that
their
was
asses.
that was so good. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I can't imagine like how, because like he got booed the shit out of. Well,
Yeah, he
they
did.
realized that they just got the word put over
And
there. They got
Boozled.
worked. Yeah, a bunch of fucking marks. But yeah, that was a really good one. And then yes, for whatever reason, Hogan just didn't want that to happen. He just said, we're having the one match and I'm going over. Doesn't work for me, brother. I mean, he was a back-to-back SummerSlam winner because he beat Orton when he was in his legend killer phase still. Dumped his ass. And I mean, Shawn Michaels said after that, I mean, I think it was a couple of years after that, that he did feel like it was a little bit unprofessional about like how he sold those matches. But I gotta say that was iconic though. Like you remember that match because of that insane like overselling. Like he literally like kicked him, and then he like did like this bounce and roll. Like he jumped up, and then Hogan turned around. He thought he just like no sold his move, but he didn't realize he was like going back down on the ground. So like if you look in the video, he's like, because he was about to go like, what the fuck? Why are you still standing? But then he did like
I
this
gotta watch
stupid
that match now.
over the top.
It's very
like,
funny.
roll.
Yeah.
You see Hogan like fucking fighting everything in his body to like not spaz out in the middle of the ring
Yeah.
at like certain points of it.
Yeah. That was
Pretty
really
rough.
good. So yeah, definitely watch that. And for everyone who's listening, if you're younger and you weren't even born in 2005, you should rewatch that SummerSlam match. Bret Hart, I mean, like he was in a lot of SummerSlam matches too. I mean, we talked about him, and he would definitely be in my Mount Rushmore as like a number 6 or 7 if we expanded it to 10. But yeah, he also did a bunch of matches. I believe he did one with the British Bulldog
And Perfect.
and Mr. Perfect. So he had a number of real classics that people put on like their best matches ever, and those happened at SummerSlam. Those are really good. You mentioned, Chris, the Team Nexus one. Like that one, I completely forgot about until like I was like researching SummerSlam matches, and I saw the one in 2010. And yeah, like that was like again when the Nexus showed up. Like you had Skip Sheffield, who was Ryback. You had oh my God, you had Wade Barrett, who was the leader. You had
Heath Slater.
Heath Slater when they did the whole Wendy's thing. Was it that year? I think it was after the fact. I think it was after. It might have been when CM Punk took over the Nexus. But yeah, you had
Husky Harris.
I forgot Black John Cena's name.
David Otunga.
No, it's not Otunga.
Darren Young.
Darren Young. Thank you. Yeah. Justin Gabriel. Yep. Ricky Martin looking ass.
Michael Tarver.
I think that was it. And then Daniel Bryan was there for a little bit. And I think they actually suspended him because they said like he was choking out
Justin Roberts.
He got fired.
Yeah, he got fired because he was choking out Justin Roberts with
that
his
face.
tie. It was like
iconic. Fucking
was so
funny
good.
as hell.
He didn't finish.
I forgot about that.
But yeah, so choked him out. He got fired, and then he came back for Team WWE. And then you mentioned Bret Hart in that match because that was the same year where Bret Hart came back to the WWE, like at
That
the
was
beginning of the
2010,
year.
right?
Yeah, so like that when he came back in January, that was like when TNA was trying to go head to head with WWE, if you remember that. Like
And with
that
Bischoff showing up.
yeah, Bischoff, Hogan.
The
I think
band.
they were airing it at the same time as Raw.
It was on Mondays. They brought back their first Monday. They brought back the NWO.
Yep, basically.
They called them the
Yeah.
band, and
And
Hogan was
Hogan.
like, "Not
Oh,
this
man.
time, guys. Not
yep.
this time." That
Oh
was like his
yeah.
whole thing.
And I think one of those episodes was when Bret Hart came back and he was talking
Yep.
to Shawn Michaels. Like that was one of the head. I was like, yo, you guys are fucked.
Yeah, they
Like
had some like cage match with RVD in it. I remember that.
yeah. So yeah, Bret Hart was there. He had his WrestleMania 26 match against Vince McMahon. I think right after, or not too long after, he won the United States Championship for a little bit, and I forgot about that little stint he did. And then he was basically, yeah, into the WWE for the next like year, 2 years, because then he was also like a manager for like Natty Neidhart and that kind of stuff. So I remember that. And yeah, he ended up being Team WWE versus the Nexus. So it was basically WWE's version of the NWO. Um, in 2010, and yeah, that match basically it was basically tit for tat until the end when it was like 2 versus 1, and then Cena basically pinned them both, if I'm not mistaken. I think there were some shenanigans, but yeah, he ended up pinning them both, and that was one of the biggest regrets that Cena had during that time because the Nexus was getting super hot, and they just started in like June, so like 2 months passed, and you already beat the Nexus. Like they blew their load super early. They could have like extended that considerably longer, but then they like changed it
The
way better.
core.
Yeah, you had the core. Well, you had the new Nexus with CM Punk. He had
Oh
like the
yeah.
yellow shirt, and then that new Nexus bit was when he did the whole that pipe bomb, and that was that era, 2011. So yeah, core, new Nexus, all that stuff. But yeah, that was an interesting match in SummerSlam history, like leading up to it. It's just an unfortunate, you know, unfortunate result because I feel like that really dimmed the Nexus's um, momentum. Like they just kind of looked like jokes after that.
And that's why he's an honorable mention.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Any other matches you guys can think of before I wrap this thing up?
HBK and Scott Hall again. So they did the rematch from WrestleMania 10. They did the ladder match. I think it was in SummerSlam, I believe.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
The Rock versus Triple H ladder match for Intercontinental title.
Wow.
That shit. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I'm sure that must have
It was pretty
slapped
good.
hard.
Oh, was that when like all of DX, everybody in the group had the gold, right? Like the Outlaws won the tag titles. I think X Pac won the European title, right?
Mhm.
I think that was that same SummerSlam where they all won something that year.
Yep.
That was a good. That was a good choice. Man. That's when he had those bright purple pants still
Mm-hmm.
with the H's on it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Clean shaven? Was he still clean shaven?
Yeah. Yeah. He was clean shaven,
Oh, wait.
and he had like a. No, this is like the '90s.
Oh, 90s. Yeah, he
Rock
was clean
versus
shaven for
Rock.
sure.
Oh yeah.
So go make more movies and fucking F5 them a couple more times.
No, yeah, that was really good. I'm trying to think of like other ones, but yeah, like SummerSlam '07, like it was, yeah, it wasn't that great because you had Batista, Great Khali for the World Heavyweight Championship. You had John Cena versus Randy Orton, so that's kind of when they started that feud, and then Triple H was fighting King Booker.
Booker.
And Umaga was still alive. And that's when they were facing Carlito and Mr. Kennedy. That was like that kind of mid card thing. I was trying to think about when that John Cena Edge one was. Was it 08?
Durag Vince.
Maybe it was 2006.
I mean, maybe it wasn't a SummerSlam match. It might have been like some other pay-per-view or some shit.
It must have been. There was a singles match for the WWE Championship. It was Edge versus John Cena, but I don't think it was TLC. And that was in the 06 SummerSlam. So that one I do definitely remember. And then that same SummerSlam, Batista defeated King Booker for the World Heavyweight Championship. So yeah, that one I remember too. But again, yeah, there were moments like it's just like because there are so many pay-per-views, and yeah, sometimes you forget because I mean, for one, it's also been a long time, but Peacock has a hub if you guys are interested to see like what people consider to be like the classics. They have a hub of all those like specific SummerSlam matches and shows. I might put on a couple while I'm working this week to, you know, just kind of jog the memory and just kind of, you know, remember watching like the 2000s ones and just kind of because I feel like once you hit play and watch it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle was really good. It was like
Yeah.
Rey Mysterio's debut match.
Is that like 02? Something like that.
03, 2,
I think
3.
it was 02. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this year's SummerSlam. Primarily, I think a lot of people are just looking forward to CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre as the match because
Absolutely.
Jack
Punk's
Perry will
first.
intervene. Mark my words. Can you imagine that? How
I
insane
doubt
would that be? Huh?
Yeah, it would be insane.
Tony Khan would never. If
You don't think so?
If he didn't let Dustin Rhodes show up, like a person who isn't that involved, like he's in AEW, but it's not like he didn't let him intervene like at Cody's expense. I feel like that probably was thrown around. I don't think he'd do Jack Perry.
Never say never. I mean, they took
Especially-
that photo for a reason.
Yeah, but they were both at the Comic-Con or whatever. So Drew McIntyre like always likes pushing the envelope, and didn't he delete it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was on purpose, though. It's like,
You
oh
think
shit,
so?
I shouldn't be doing
Wow.
that.
Yeah, and then he knows that everyone's just gonna screenshot it and reshare it anyway. But
Right.
Yeah.
that's gonna be sick. That's gonna be entertaining as hell. And it's also CM Punk's first televised singles match because he did beat Dominic Mysterio in December at Madison Square Garden and at a house show. But his first singles match televised in 14 years, 13 years, something like that. So that'll be exciting. Obviously, he was in AEW, but WWE.
Gonna put him through real glass. He's gonna tell him to cry him a river.
I bet you he's going to do something like that for SummerSlam. Drew McIntyre. Now, it won't be. I don't think it'll be glass, but it'll be something with like Cry Me a River. It's got to be.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Solo Sikoa, Cody Rhodes. I was like, I still don't think Solo Sikoa has that Riz yet. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they put the necklace on him. I think what I'm more excited about is I'm pretty sure Roman Reigns is coming back. If not,
Oh yeah.
this upcoming SmackDown in Cleveland, then SummerSlam, which that would be wild because
Mhm.
I feel like the time is now, right? Or do you feel like they're just going to
That's a
keep
different
doing
guy.
this? Yeah, well then you know what I mean. I think it's time for Roman Reigns to come back. He's had enough.
Oh, look at that. Marcin, the Roman Reigns fan.
Oh yeah, I'm riding that Roman train.
When's this John Cena tour starting?
2025, he said.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. So January 1st, basically, whatever the first Raw show is, I think. I don't know if he's doing both SmackDown and Raw, but yeah, should be interesting. Well, folks, that's a wrap for this episode of Chi-Town Shoot Podcast. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, rate us, and leave your feedback. Tune in next time for more wrestling madness. Until then, keep marking.